Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving straight into a really high-stakes situation.
Yeah, we're looking at America's big tech companies.
Exactly. And how they're kind of navigating the return of the Trump administration. We've got some great analysis here, mostly from The Economist.
Two recent pieces, yeah. Really insightful.
And our goal, your mission for this deep dive, is really to get past the headlines.
To understand the deeper geopolitical and economic stuff that's going on.
Especially for companies like NVIDIA, but also the wider tech scene.
And what's fascinating right away, isn't it, is this sort of tightrope walk.
Yeah. These huge tech companies, some of who've been, let's say, criticized pretty heavily by Trump,
And his allies, yeah.
now seem to be trying to, well, find some common ground.
It makes you wonder what's really going on there. What are the strategies?
If concessions might be on the table, maybe?
Or what are they hoping to get? It says a lot about the power dynamics, I think.
Let's take NVIDIA then. That's a perfect example. Their CEO, Jensen Huang.
Right, he took a different tack, didn't he, post-election?
Totally. Not the big inauguration show like some others. He went for a quieter meeting at the White House.
Which was interesting timing because it came just after NVIDIA's market value took that big hit.
Oh yeah, that was huge. Triggered by that Chinese company, DeepSeek.
DeepSeek, yeah. They released some really impressive AI models.
And bang, NVIDIA's stock felt it immediately. Really shows the competition heating up, especially from China.
It does, even for a giant like NVIDIA.
But, they bounced back. Pretty impressively, actually.
Oh, absolutely. What was it, 78% year-on-year sales growth?
Something like that. $39 billion in sales for the quarter ending Jan 2025. Strong earnings.
But hanging over all this is the government response, isn't it, to China's AI progress?
Definitely. The Biden administration already had export controls on advanced chips, the tools to make them.
And now, with Trump back, the feeling is those could get even tighter.
We heard Howard Lutnick, the new Commerce Secretary, didn't we? Pretty pointed remarks.
He mentioned NVIDIA's chips being used by DeepSeek specifically, said it has got to end.
Wow. Okay, so that puts NVIDIA's China business right in the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, China's about, 15% of their sales? Something like that?
So any more restrictions are going to hurt? No question.
And the U.S. government has basically two main levers here.
Okay, where are they?
Well, first, just directly limiting GPU sales to China.
Right. Straightforward.
And second, and maybe trickier, controlling access via third countries, stopping workarounds.
Ah, okay. And NVIDIA saw this coming, to some extent.
Yeah.
They made that special chip.
The H20, yeah. A scaled-down version for the Chinese market.
But now even that might face restrictions.
That's the chatter. Dylan Patel at SemiAnalysis reported NVIDIA might have even stopped making the H20.
Seriously. After making over 1 million of them.
In just 9 months, yeah. That's a lot of chips sitting there.
So what's NVIDIA's angle on the H20?
Well, they're kind of downplaying it,
Mm-hmm.
saying it's not really much better for AI than their regular gaming chips.
But other reports say differently.
Exactly. Reports from China suggest its use for AI is actually soaring.
So that creates a real clash, doesn't it? Makes the U.S. government skeptical.
Understandably so. It looks like NVIDIA might be trying to have it both ways.
Okay, and then there's this other thing, the framework for AI diffusion. That came in late under Biden.
Right at the end, yeah. And it seems pretty crucial to this whole thing.
What's the goal there?
Basically, stop advanced GPUs being smuggled and prevent Chinese firms using U.S. AI power through servers in other countries.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just China.
No, its reach is huge, like over 150 countries.
And NVIDIA's reaction.
Not happy. Strongly opposing it.
Why? What's their argument?
They're saying it's overreach, it'll hurt U.S. competitiveness,
Yeah.
and it might actually push allies towards competitors like Huawei.
Because Huawei is developing its own AI chips.
Precisely. So NVIDIA is worried the U.S. will alienate partners.
But despite that pushback, the thinking is the Trump administration might keep it.
Gregory Allen at CSIS thinks so. Maybe tweaked, but the basic structure will likely stay.
Seems the overall direction is definitely towards tighter controls then.
It really does. Which brings us back to Jensen Huang's strategy.
How does he navigate this?
Well, one interesting angle is his connection with Elon Musk.
Musk. How does he fit in?
Musk has, a relationship with Trump. The idea is Musk might try to influence Trump, maybe push for a softer line on tech sales to China.
Interesting. So Huang's using his network, even if he's not in that inner circle of tech leaders close to Trump.
Seems like it. But I mean, even without new rules, things were already getting tougher for NVIDIA in China, right?
Yeah, their market share had already dropped. from over 20% a couple years ago.
And the Chinese government is pushing hard for domestic chips,
Plus, there was that anti-monopoly probe into NVIDIA by China.
which looked a lot like retaliation for the U.S. chip curbs.
Definitely a delicate balancing act for them.
So it looks like NVIDIA is focusing more on growth outside China now.
And their new Blackwell AI chips seem to be doing really well.
Yeah, the performance is strong. And there's also this idea among investors
What's that?
that cheaper AI models, like DeepSeek's, might actually increase demand for NVIDIA's hardware in the long run.
How so?
Because more accessible AI means more companies using it, which means more need for the powerful chips NVIDIA makes.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. Drive adoption, drive hardware sales.
But there's always a but, isn't there? TD Cowen had that report.
About Microsoft?
Yeah,
Huh.
potentially canceling some data center leases, these big computing facilities.
Even though Microsoft committed to huge infrastructure spending.
Exactly. So it might signal a bit of uncertainty in the cloud sector.
Which is a huge customer for NVIDIA's chips.
Right. So something to watch there.
Okay, so NVIDIA's definitely got a complex path to tread, U.S.-China policy, domestic stuff.
A real minefield.
But it's not just NVIDIA, is it? Let's look at the broader tech sector under Trump.
Because we saw that rush, didn't we? Tech CEOs trying to get friendly with Trump after the re-election.
Yeah, even after some pretty harsh words had flown back and forth previously.
Zuckerberg talking about an administration being proud of U.S. tech.
After Trump had called Meta an enemy of the people.
Right. And don't forget VP Vance calling them parasitic. There's history there.
Serious tension.
Yeah.
But it seems like trying to make nice isn't stopping the antitrust push.
Doesn't look like it. Trump's picks for the FTC and the DOJ's antitrust division, they seem ready to keep going with the Biden-era cases.
Gail Slater, the new DOJ antitrust head, sounded particularly tough on Google.
Yeah, calling Google a threat to, like, fundamental freedoms, strong language.
So that aggressive antitrust agenda is continuing.
Absolutely. We already saw that ruling against Alphabet, Google's parent.
The illegal monopoly in digital ads?
Right. And the search monopoly case is moving towards remedies. Could even mean selling off Chrome.
Wow. And it's not just Google.
Nope. The FTC case against Meta over Instagram and WhatsApp?
That's still going. I heard Meta tried to get Trump involved to settle it.
Reports said that, yeah. But apparently, no dice so far.
And there are still investigations into Amazon, Apple, Microsoft.
And NVIDIA, too, don't forget.
Right. So the regulatory heat is definitely staying on.
Seems that way. And then you have the trade policy layer. Tariffs.
Yeah, Apple. They must be watching that closely. Most iPhones and Macs made in China.
Their stock definitely reacted when reciprocal tariffs were first mentioned. Took a hit.
There were some carve-outs later for smartphones and PCs.
Yeah, which helped. But existing tariffs are still likely to push up iPhone prices. Could slow sales.
And we're hearing Apple might shift some iPhone assembly for the U.S. out of China to India.
By end of 2026, reportedly. That shows how real these trade impacts are on supply chains.
Okay, what about NVIDIA and tariffs? Semiconductors were spared before.
They were, but the China business is already at risk from those H-20 restrictions we talked about.
They estimated a big inventory hit, right?
$5.5 billion potential write-down. Huge number.
Could they make an even less powerful chip for China?
Maybe, but the risk there is you end up boosting Chinese competitors like Huawei, giving them more space.
Tricky. And Amazon, they must be exposed too.
Oh, yeah. Bernstein estimated something like 20% of goods on Amazon US come from China.
So tariffs hit them directly. What about that de minimis thing being removed for China? The under $800 exemption?
Right. That probably hurts competitors like Shein and Temu more directly.
Because they rely on lots of small, cheap shipments.
Exactly. But it still adds complexity and maybe some cost for Amazon, too. It's not a clear win.
Mark Shmulek at Bernstein had that phrase, U.S. tech becoming retaliatory lightning rods.
Yeah, I thought that was spot on. We're kind of seeing it already.
Like China's probes into Google and NVIDIA.
And the rules phasing out Microsoft from government computers, potentially banning iPhones for state officials.
It shows how easily tech can get caught in the crossfire.
And it's not just China. The EU might hit back against U.S. tariffs with levies on U.S. tech.
Plus, the EU's already been fining Apple and Meta under the Digital Markets Act.
So pressure from multiple directions.
And then there are the indirect effects of all this trade tension.
Like ad revenues.
Yeah. Ad money from Chinese e-commerce firms. That was big business for Meta especially.
And removing that de minimis exemption could hit Google and Meta's ad business, too.
Could do. If fewer cheap Chinese goods are advertised and sold, And just generally, if tariffs slow down the whole economy,
Ad spending usually takes a hit across the board. That's a real risk.
we might see impacts on cloud computing too.
Possibly. If economic uncertainty makes big companies or startups delay signing cloud contracts.
And maybe even a pullback in AI spending if companies get cautious.
Yeah, like that Johnson & Johnson example, scaling back AI projects that weren't showing quick results.
So it really is a convergence, isn't it? Geopolitics, antitrust, trade wars, all hitting at once.
It's a lot for the tech sector to handle. There was that one tech insider view, a bit more optimistic,
What was it?
suggesting Trump might actually end up supporting U.S. tech abroad, trying to help them compete globally.
An alternative take.
But the immediate signs, those first 100 days or so, they certainly look challenging.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. We've really seen NVIDIA trying to chart this incredibly tricky course between U.S., China, tech tensions, and domestic policy.
Yeah, navigating those currents, and then the whole tech sector facing this renewed antitrust focus and the big economic waves from the trade situation.
It just hammers home how interconnected everything is. Geopolitics, trade, technology.
Yeah,
You can't separate them.
absolutely. Which leaves a really interesting question for you, the listener, to think about.
Go on.
With all these pressures swirling around the US, China, Europe, antitrust, tariffs, how is the global tech landscape actually going to change?
Right, who comes out stronger?
Exactly. Could we see unexpected players, maybe companies not even on our radar right now, emerge from this? What does it all mean long-term for innovation and, well, for the choices we all have as consumers?
Lots to chew on there. A good place to leave it.